Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be discussing Grand Prix, an illustrated history of Formula One by Will Buxton. The new series of Drive to Survive drops today, and I thought in tribute to that I would be covering this book. It's very much aimed at the people like me who came into F1 through Drive to Survive a few years ago. And overall, it's not very long. It's a great overview of how the sport developed and of different championship drivers and teams over the years and different things that were shaping the sport. And I would say one of the things that really drives the book is really great graphics. So, for example, you have different races here. So you can see how Silverstone used to be a fairly easy track, and now one that's definitely more difficult and challenging. Or you can see the scale, for example, of the Nürburgring, this very famous track in Germany. Look how large that used to be. And now this track, just look at the comparison of how long that used to be. The full circuit consisted of 187 corners over 17.4 miles, 28 kilometers, of winding mayhem through the forests of the Eifel Mountains in Germany. And now it's 13.7 miles with just 160 corners. But these sorts of visual representations, not just for the tracks, but just to educate you about different things. So, for example, a comprehensive look at the car and all the different aspects of it, walking you through this is what this does, this is what that does. So helpful in that sense. And then just some fun, beautiful ones. This is one of the famous, Red Bull currently does the fastest pit changes, I think, in the sport, usually under 2 seconds. But I'm sure this was taken from a photo, which then made into this, you could say, comic book style art, but looks really nice. Here's one of the setup. These teams have to bring this setup wherever they go in the world to race. And then this one's really great. You can see the evolution of the car design. Look at this one. This Alfa Romeo from 1950. And the progression, the change from the engine being in the front to the engine being in the rear. And then wings, different aerodynamics coming into it till, we have the cars that we look at and we see today that are racing, which are, more like cyborg cars, half man, half machine. If you look at the coverage, television coverage, 60s, 70s, you can see sometimes it just looks like this person is holding this wheel and there's nothing protecting them, which is unfortunately a part of why a lot of these people died. Was they were racing cars and there was no adequate protection, not just in the car itself. So there's so many things that surround drivers now. They're in this protective, you could say, thing that surrounds them. They're in a protective bubble of kinds that's meant to support them. They have the halo that protects their head, that can support the weight of a London bus. And the barriers themselves are meant to allow vehicles to crash into them. Before, they had hay bales and other things, and there were so many instances of cars going off the road and then crashing into the audience and killing the audience as well. All of those things have been removed. And as I say, and I'll talk about a little bit more in the review, that means the dynamics of experiencing the race and what is the risk to the drivers have changed tremendously. But in the beginning, F1 was a very, very, very dangerous sport. Speaking of dangerous, here's someone who died because of that. And here's another example of the graphics. So to keep pace with the attention span of a younger generation, you only have one page for each championship winner. But it's enough to give you a sense. Then you have something, you can see the colors of Brazil here. You have the years that he won, one of the vehicles he drove. So all throughout the book, I think you have great graphics to go along with a good story. And really, obviously some of these people are still alive. Fernando Alonso is still driving. So, and at the top of the ones who are retired, you'll see, for example, races, wins, podiums, poles, fastest laps, all these important statistics. But I suppose that's the first takeaway I have is, as far as the book goes, it's a great overview. It's got good graphics. It's educational, but also interesting. And if you are liking this very short review, there's other reviews. I can't say anything like this on the channel, but you might enjoy other book reviews I do. Hit like, subscribe, check out the channel, see for yourself. Can't promise there'll be more F1 type reviews, but I wanted to do this one for today at least. Now, that takes me to my second part of reflections, which is the sport used to be very dangerous, and people routinely died, and other people quit because they were so attached to the people who died, and they were so devastated by the accident that happened. And this takes me back to a review I did very early on in this channel. I'll put a link in the description as well as a card. It was on Alex Honnold's Alone on the Wall. If you don't know Alex Honnold, he's a free solo climber, and he's the object of that very famous award-winning documentary Free Solo. And one of the questions that's being asked of Alex all throughout the documentary, and I think of us as the viewer, is what is the moral line when doing something in your life for a living? It pays you money, it pays your family money, but it's an enormous risk. So one of the people in the documentary in Free Solo had said, it's competing every day in something in which if you win a gold medal, if you expect like an Olympic gold medal, and if you lose, you die. And that trade-off, you'll read in these pages, Will Buxton, and by the way, if you watch Drive to Survive, you've heard Will Buxton. He talks very dramatically when he wants to make a point. Great personality in the sport. I think he's built to be an announcer. But the sentiments that are conveyed here and that we often hear, I feel almost like platitudes that, oh, at least he died doing something he loved. And that's a silly thing to say for a number of reasons, insofar as you don't die alone. There are people who depend on you. There are family, your children, and they didn't get a choice. This choice was imposed on them, and it didn't have to happen. You didn't have to do something that risked your life. There are other things you can do in this life that you can care about, be passionate about, love, be talented in, that don't risk your life. That's just the reality of things. And as I say, that moral choice is different now because it's really safe to race in F1. There haven't been the fatalities that there used to be routinely in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, even up until the 90s. So you don't have to make that same choice now. And most of us usually don't have to make a choice about doing something for a living in which our life is threatened by doing it in a real way. But I do think it's important to question that. And I'm not saying that I'm proposing a correct answer. Obviously, as a Christian, I have my own moral framework for understanding what is a reasonable risk to take with your life and what is not. So a classic example given is the church had ruled on people working in coal mines when it was discovered that working in a coal mine could potentially shorten your life. And the church had said it's fine for people to work in coal mines insofar as, yes, your life could be shortened, but you're doing a job and you're providing for your family. That the job itself is not as dangerous, you could say. Not to say that mining isn't dangerous. We've all seen those news stories of people that get trapped in mines. But you're not taking an unreasonable risk in order to support your family. So the church's position is my own, obviously, that you cannot take an unreasonable risk in pursuing a life, whether it's something you're doing for work or something you're doing for recreation. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, many of you who are watching this may not be Christians, may not adhere to that moral view, but I'd like to understand and hear what your perspectives are outside of that. So overall recommendation, I would also recommend Drive to Survive as a series. I probably won't do a review of it. There's probably too many people who've done wonderful reviews on it in much better format than I would. And this is very much generally a book channel, not a television series channel. But if you like this review, hit like, subscribe, share it with people who are generally interested in F1 or potentially, like me, newer followers of the sport. And I don't follow any sport very deeply, but I will occasionally watch race highlights. I don't normally watch races because they're on Sundays, and I don't normally watch I don't watch any sports on Sundays, but it is fun to see the highlights and see what people are doing. Another way you can support the channel on a one-time basis, if you like this review, you can buy me a coffee or a PayPal. Those links are in the description. Or you can support the channel on an ongoing basis by becoming a member of my YouTube members or my Patreon. You get early releases to videos like this one. and have a chance to talk with me behind the scenes about other books that I'm reading but may not necessarily be reviewing for the channel. There's also my Amazon wish list, which is linked below. If you'd like to nominate a book for the future, just look at my wish list, see if anything catches your fancy, buy it, send it my way, and you can be a sponsor for that video. And if you, unless you tell me otherwise, I will mention your name when I do the review. As always, until next time, enjoy your reading.